Hey everyone, you are listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. My name is Matt Wakeling and thank you so much for joining me for episode number 150. Now today I am joined by Michael Schenker, who is one of the most influential rock guitarists on the planet, with players such as John Petrucci, Kirk, Hammett and Randy Rhoades amongst others, citing the German-born guitarist as a huge inspiration. Schenker rose to fame during his time with the Scorpions and UFO in the 70s and 80s. And whilst a host of offers from artists such as Aerosmith and Ozzy Ozbourne were extended, Schenker has always been happiest, following his own muse. Michael Schenker joins us to reflect on 50 years of high-octane rock and a new album, Immortal, that celebrates this milestone. I got to tell you, this album absolutely rips. Schenker's lost none of the fire in his playing at all. We also discuss his approach to guitar tracking, working with Jim Marshall on an unfinished project which Schenker believes led to the JCM 800 series, the history of his legendary Cocteau tone, and much more. Today's episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the online guitar college created by Joe Elliott, the ex-head of guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology and also the McNally Smith Music College. Joe's a good friend of the show, and here he will tell us a little bit more about Fretboard Biology.
If you're tired of wading through hundreds of random guitar videos and just want to become a better player, Fretboard Biology is your answer. Fretboard Biology is a self-paced, college-level program that'll give you the right instruction, in the right amounts, and in the right order. You'll learn the same information I taught to thousands of other guitar players over 30 years of teaching in top music colleges. If you want to make real progress with your guitar playing, then sign up for a free 7-day trial at fretboardbiology.com.
I was very honoured to be one of the beta testers of this course, and I can tell you and endorse it from my perspective as a music educator. That's a very well organised, systematic approach to improving and building your guitar knowledge and skills. There are links in our show notes to check out Fretboard Biology. All right, let's jump over to my interview with the legendary Michael Schenker. Congratulations on the new album Immortal coming out this month. Not only a great new record, but also celebrating 50 years of your career as a musician.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so pleased with the result that it feels like a gift from heaven, 50 years staying true to myself, being the kid in the sandbox, just having fun, play and discover, being fascinated with putting three notes together, creating goose pimples, and I'm never been competing with anybody or chased any fame or anything. I was just always just happy, being an artist and doing what I'm doing. And early in life, I found, like starting around 15 years old, to be Michael Schenker. I just realized that it was important for me, for my vision, to express, to do pure self-expression. And I found the inner spring, the infinite inner spring of creativity that is actually in each one of us. But we just have to make a choice to go there rather than taking from the trend that is already there, which most people do, and, to take a piece of the pie and they know it works, it gives them fame and et cetera, based on the commercial, stereotype of album buyers, etc. But I was never, that's why I never joined Ozzy Ozbourne or, if I would have stayed with UFO, it would have been one of the biggest bands in the world. But, in my middle years, I started to to having the urge to be Michael Schenker and experiment with music, which I could have never done with Ozzy Ozbourne or Deep Purple or Phil Lynott, Ian Hunter, Motorhead, or whoever asked me to join them. So I had to decline. I actually love Ozzy Ozbourne. It's just like, Zeppelin, Deep Purple, and Black Sabbath. It's what inspired me, to actually understanding what can be done, and so that's how I went into myself, and I wanted to, to express to the people in the world how I see it, and inject freshness to a trend. That if everybody just keeps taking from the trend, it will die very quickly. Like a ditch. That, I mean, if there's no fresh water coming in, it just dies. And the musicians from the 80s who copied me, they know where I'm going, and they take bits and pieces from me, and they always have done, to the point, in the 80s, that my guitar playing was overexposed with all these guitarists that liked what I did, that by the time I was playing it, everybody heard it already, but I'm always a step ahead, because I go to the inner spring, where you can always, find a new color that you can inject into the world, into the trend, that keeps the trend alive that much longer. And so, I'm very happy that I never got tempted, to be with Ozzy, or, I was a little bit tempted, but it was, I always remembered, hey, Michael, why did you leave UFO? Why did you, not stay with the Scorpions, etc.? And it was, I needed to go my own way, follow my own vision, and not chasing something that I wasn't interested in, which most people do. They look for fame, money, and success, etc., etc. But I'm the kid in the sandbox. I play and discover, and I'm happy at that place. And after 50 years, I can't believe with an album ending up the way it did, because I didn't plan it. It all happened by itself. It is unbelievable.
That's fantastic. It is a great record, and I love how you've brought together a lot of the musicians you've worked with over the years to help you celebrate the milestone as well. That must be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I mean, especially in the Search of the Peace of Mind, I ended up with the Michael Schenker Fest singers, which was remarkable, because, in Search of the Peace of Mind is a very important song, because it was the very first, I was 15 years old. It was my first musical composition, In Search of the Peace of Mind, which actually Michael Foss, my co-producer, he sent me the original credits, and it had Michael Schenker lyrics, Rudolf Schenker lyrics. We had zero knowledge of English. How could we have written any lyrics? It was a complete misinformation. It should have said Michael Schenker music and whoever did the lyrics, But also in Search of the Peace of Mind, there is a lead break in there that I did when I was 15 that I would never change a note. It's so perfect. I don't know where it came from. I mean, you can hear on Lonesome Crow, Scorpions album, that I'm developing. I'm an amateur, and throughout the years with UFO, I went step by step developing. as a guitarist, and it was just it's a very strange, how this solo. I would never change a note, just like Stairway to Heaven or the theme of the Imaginary Western. It happens sometimes that something is just coming out of the blue that never needs to be changed. And In Search of the Peace of Mind is also the theme of my life, looking for contentment and freedom and peace and so on. And it was the first piece of music that I wrote in my mother's kitchen all by myself. There was nobody there. So finding out credits like that is a bit disturbing. But the main thing is that In Search of the Peace of Mind became, because it was the first note I ever recorded. That's how. That's why we have a 50th anniversary. It started in 1970, and I was looking for. I realized in 79. In 2019 that the 50th anniversary was coming up, and I was actually planning to celebrate with musicians, fans, and friends, but it was dragging on, and then at some point, and it's really hard to get to organize something like that, with musicians from all over the world, and at some point I gave up, and then my agent told me, but Michael, the album was released in 72. And so I said, so I have 2 years to get this together. So I had hope again. But this time I said to myself, let's just put together a compact band, and make it simple and celebrate the 50th anniversary with the current Michael Schenker lineup. And so Ronnie Romero, he was supposed to sing, all 10 songs, actually 11, because we have a bonus track that will come out later as a bonus. And but the thing is, with the virus, it changed everything. I started writing before I knew about the virus. And, when I came back from the cruise, the 70,000 tons of metal, and I spent 4 days in Miami in a hotel, I started writing, and then I went to the UK and I carried on, and I was ready, and I wanted to leave to go to the studio in Germany to Michael Voss, co-producer. And then I saw on TV that there was that virus, and I found out that I couldn't go to Germany anymore, my usual route. I go by car and via Eurotunnel and France, Belgium, Holland, etc. But I couldn't do it this time, so we had to find a new route, and I ended up going via Harwich on a boat. 7 hours overnight sleeping, and then drive to the recording studio in Germany, and I actually had to do this 4 times, and every time I came back, I had to go on 14 days quarantine, with the exception of 1 time. And if you total the 3 times quarantine, 14 days each time, it's 42 days quarantine. Wow. Unbelievable. Goodness. And but I had to do it, because if I hadn't done this, the album would have never happened. And so there was another, obstacle that was coming up with the virus. But the virus situation changed everything. It kind of, from the compact band, from the original idea, celebrating with music, friends and fans, going to the idea of putting together a compact band, I ended up the way I actually wanted it in the first place. But this time, I didn't have to do anything. It was all of a sudden, it was like, it started when I had put all my musical compositions down in the studio and asking Ronnie, are you ready to sing? And he said, sorry, Michael, I can't. I don't want to go on 14 days quarantine. We said, don't worry. We look for a resolution and we call you back. And Amy, my partner, who's a bass player and has a very good taste and is a music consumer. I haven't been listening to music for 50 years. I don't know what's out there. So I asked her, Ronnie is not available right now. Do you have any ideas? She said, Ralph Shakers. And so I said to Michael Voss, what do you think of Ralph? He said, absolutely. The next day they were recording. Unbelievable. And then we even got another song out of him. And then we got a phone call. Michael got a phone call from Brian Tichy, one of the best drummers in the world. He was with Ozzy and Whitesnake, and he's a Michael Schenker fan. Yeah, and he's a fan. And he offered, he said, I heard about the 50th anniversary of Michael, so I want to make a contribution, offer 6 drum tracks. I said, what? What is this? Where is this coming from? And then he called back Michael Voss and said, a buddy of mine, a keyboard player, Derek Sheranian, he's also a fan. He wants to make a contribution. And I said to Michael Voss, what are we going to do? As far as I know, he's a heavy-duty keyboard player. Yeah, I actually put all my guitars down myself this time. I wanted to keep it, because it's a Michael Schenker 50th anniversary, and I wanted to keep it guitar-oriented. And I asked Steve, just to put some sprinkles on the keyboards, just to keep a little bit of, little touches here and there. And so I said, we already got Steve. What are we going to do with Derek Sheranian? And he said, well, why don't you have a keyboard guitar jam? I said, what? I've never done anything like that before. He said, well, maybe it's a good idea to do it for the first time. It's the 50th anniversary. It would be great to have something new, fresh, for the fans to hear something we have never done before. And I said, you mean like Richie Blackmore and John Lord? He said, yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah. I said, yeah. And I said to him, you know what? You're right. And I actually got really excited. So by having Ralph and Brian Tichy and Derek, by the time I heard the result, I was blown away. And it became Drill to Kill. And I didn't know that a voice like Ralph actually existed. And I was absolutely amazed. And the drums and the keyboards, how it ended up, it was unbelievable. It was beyond my belief.
All right, I hope you're enjoying the conversation with Michael Schenker. Stick around, we're about to talk guitars, amps and wah pedals. In the meantime, I want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology. The knowledge without the college. It's a fantastic online teaching program put together by Joe Elliott, who really draws on years of experience. He headed up guitar at the legendary Guitar Institute of Technology in Los Angeles for many years, and also the McNally Smith Music College. And he really knows his stuff. Joe's been on the show a couple of times. and we've built up a good relationship. So I was really happy to take Fretboard Biology on as a sponsor. I've been a beta tester of the course, and that gave me such a great behind-the-scenes look at how the course is put together. So that's why I'm so happy to endorse it and so happy to have these guys as sponsors of the show. All right, check out the links in the show notes for Fretboard Biology, and let's jump back into our conversation with Michael Schenker. Let's talk about the guitars, because the guitar parts on the record are so powerful and vibrant. They sound fantastic. What's your process for recording the guitar parts?
Oh yeah, usually I go. I go to I decided this time. I mean, in the past, sometimes I had 10 guitars or 15 guitars in the studio, and this time I decided I wanted to only use one guitar, which is my rock bottom guitar, which is the first guitar I got from Dean in 2004, I think, and they did for me especially. And I used that guitar for rock bottom, and rock bottom is a song which is very adventurous, in the middle with all the solos, and I'll go on an adventure doing something you haven't heard on Strangers in the Night. I always, go to this point when I start improvising, and people have never heard it. I have never heard it, so I kind of experiment. Sometimes it goes very well, sometimes it doesn't go that well, but that is what you do if you go on an adventure. You don't know how the outcome is going to be, and so but I used that guitar for so much guitar playing on rock bottom. I decided this time I want to use this guitar only.
Okay.
And so so I played everything with one guitar.
Great. It sounds massive. It sounds really big. What amps are you using to pull your signature tone, which is so recognizable?
Oh, of course. I mean, I'm using. I had a 50-watt Marshall when I joined UFO, which was I used for the whole UFO development until Strangers in the Night, and then even with MSG, and then in '83 that amplifier broke down, and we got it to the repair shop. And when I got the amplifier back, all the pieces, my amplifier was basically stolen, and I got something different. It was unusable, so people knew that this was my UFO amplifier, and they took all the components out and replaced it with some other stuff that was not usable. And so I had to look for a new amplifier, and I went through so many amplifiers, and eventually I bumped into the 800 JCM, and I went like, wow, this sounds like me. And somebody in New York actually told me, Michael, did you know that you actually designed this amplifier? I said, you must be joking. I mean, what? Because then I said to him, that makes sense, because I went to the Marshall. Jim Marshall asked me to come to the factory and do a Michael Schenker amplifier, design one. And but we never completed it. So the papers, the diagrams or whatever, they must have been flying around somewhere. And eventually they discovered it after many years, because the amplifier actually was never built until early 90s or so. And it was just unbelievable that I actually chose an amplifier by going through so many amplifiers. That was actually an amplifier I designed. It's amazing.
It's definitely got that thick mid-range kind of tone. I'm hearing the cocked wah-wah pedal on Night of the Dead. I know you don't use that sound all the time, but that cocked wah, that's a classic kind of UFO sound that you brought back. Yeah,
I discovered the wah-wah pedal when I was 15 years old, and I heard Mick Ronson play it, and I was very impressed by the sound of the wah-wah. It was a new thing, and I wanted to get one, so I got one, and I played it, and I discovered that there was a particular area, when you push down the pedal, you get to a tone that was very, very, I was very enchanted by it. And I wanted to find a way how I could get that tone consistently by just pushing down the pedal to the bottom and get that sound immediately. So I'm not a technician, and I'm pretty inventive, but I opened up the wah-wah pedal as 15 years old, and I saw that it was so simple. It was just a wheel, and I thought, like, okay, if I find the sound that I like and put it in a position where I can just press down to the button after I clicked it, and that sound would come available immediately. And so that's how it started. But then, because, I actually was always wondering, all the wah-wah pedals, they started dying down because the components and stuff like that from the original wah-wah pedals, which were fantastic, they all kind of, they got worn out, and people didn't build them anymore. So the next wah-wah pedals, they actually didn't sound that good anymore, and including because, one of the reasons why I picked that 800 JCM that I actually designed was because that wah-wah sound was somehow already in there, because it was always part of my imagination as what I wanted to have as a tone. And so using a wah-wah pedal on top of that, it made everything even thinner. And so eventually I realized, Michael, you're going down the drain. It sounds cheaper and cheaper and thinner, and you can actually hear it on some records. And I decided eventually I don't actually need a wah-wah pedal, until the Dunlop wah-wah pedal came out with so much EQ. I mean, such a fantastic wah-wah pedal. You can make up for lost tones, and so. Well, I'm so grateful for that pedal. I've used it, since I discovered it for so many years now. And so, but, that's how I, in general, changed from that sound that I had on the wah-wah pedal with UFO, to not using it anymore, because it was getting worse and worse, and but made up for it some other way, and but my whole life is about development anyway, always dealing with circumstances. Everything is based on circumstances, what I do, and I always have to figure out how to deal with something that doesn't work anymore. I always find a solution, and so and Michael Schenker, 50 years, it's all about development.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on both the record and your career. And thank you for being such a wonderful influence on many, many generations of musicians.
Thank you so much for the interview, and keep rocking, keep on rocking.
All right, there you go. My conversation with Michael Schenker. Man, 50 years and he is still rocking as hard as ever. As I mentioned at the start of the show, the album Immortal is just wall to wall with just wailing guitars, just trademark Schenker. ripping. That album's out now on Nuclear Blast Records, so check that out. My thanks also go to Fretboard Biology. My thanks also to Fretboard Biology, who are bringing today's episode to us. There are links in the show notes all about the Fretboard Biology course. Please check that out. All right, thanks for joining me today. Episode 150 is a bit of a milestone. We're also entering our 5th year of the podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in, whether this is your first show or your 150th. It's great to bring these episodes to you. All right, I'm out of here. My name's Matt Wakeling. I'll catch you next time on the Guitar Speak podcast. See you later.